Hey everyone, it's Movie Lover 120 here, and today I'm back with yet another franchise ranking. And I finally got around to doing this one, and that is for all the Star Wars movies. Yeah, sorry this one took a little time to get to, but I kind of want to do those previous other ones first because this one kind of took a bit of time to think out thoroughly. But anyway, now I am finally doing it, and how we're going to start this off? Well, we're going to start off with how the chronological order they were released. So, with that being said, let's start off. I'm going to start this off. It's going to be ranking for best to worst. So I'm going to start off with the first film that released, the one that started this whole saga. Well, by release date, anyways, not by chronological order. And that was for Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. Back around the 70s, sci-fi was never much of a thing. But then a filmmaker, very talented filmmaker named George Lucas stepped in, created a draft we all know as Star Wars, released it, and it was very, very phenomenal. Back then, well, it was just called Star Wars, but once the prequels came out, they renamed it A New Hope. What's this one about? Well, the Imperial forces are under orders from the cruel Darth Vader, hold this princess named Leia hostage. Their efforts to quell the rebellion against the Galactic Empire. Luke, this one farm boy named Luke Skywalker meets this Jedi Master Ben Kenobi, and a pirate named this smuggler named Han Solo, who's this captain of this infamous ship called the Millennium Falcon, work together with this companionable droid duo R2-D2 and C-3PO to rescue the beautiful princess, help the Rebel Alliance, and restore freedom and justice to the galaxy. I just absolutely love this film. It's my second favorite Star Wars film of all time. And why so? Because, well, the special effects are visually stunning by late 1970s standards. Action scenes are so awesome for late 1970s standards as well. Films opens up in a world of possibilities, a way to make creative worlds outside of ours. So that unforgettable opening theme music from John Williams. Iconic heroes all around like Princess Leia, the first one, and probably the true female lead of Star Wars. Also, the rebellious good-hearted criminal and still one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time. Obi-Wan Kenobi, this wise Jedi Master who knew Luke's father well. Yeah, C-3PO and R2-D2 are very hilarious and they're great comic relief characters. In fact, they're one of the only comic relief characters in the whole series. And there's, of course, Luke Skywalker himself. There's so much good mix of action, adventure, drama, and humor. Concept of the movie is very impressive. Obi-Wan's sacrifice is a very emotional moment. And the destruction of Alderaan is also a very emotional, touching moment. Iconic dialogue such as, "The Force is strong with this one." And a very iconic poster too, and it's just such a great film in general. Now, the bad qualities would be, the ending feels a little abrupt. Some aspects of the movie didn't really age well. Plus there's the problems with the special editions. This shit's like, I'm not going to talk about the special editions, but I don't know. Despite that, it's still a phenomenal masterpiece to this day, and I give it a 10 out of 10. I put it in second place behind, well, I think you all know what my favorite Star Wars movie is. Because since this movie turned out to be such a huge success for the film industry, it then launched a sequel in 1980, and it turned out to be my favorite Star Wars movie, and that is for none other than Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back. Man, now, I love New Hope, but this is my all-time favorite Star Wars movie and always will be. And I'll get to why, but this one is about Luke, Han, Leia, and Chewbacca still battling the Imperial forces and their AT-AT walkers on that ice planet Hoth. While Han and Leia do escape on the Millennium Falcon, Luke goes to Dagobah to go search for the Jedi Master Yoda to complete his training. Only with his help will Luke be able to survive when the dark side of the Force beckons him in the ultimate duel with Darth Vader. And why is this film so good? Well, it's a perfect follow from the first film, or technically fourth film in chronological order, With so much major changes in the Star Wars universe, still some amazing acting just like in the previous installment. Lots of memorable action and thrill scenes like the Battle of Hoth, the Millennium Falcon getting chased by the TIE Fighters. And of course, Luke's infamous fight with Darth Vader at the very end of the film. And also, it's not even afraid to go even darker than the first film, too. Yeah, like, this is actually one of the darkest sequels probably made. Even introducing us to some brand new characters, Star Series like the Yoda, another one of my favorite characters, Lando Calrissian, and Palpatine, who is, well, seen through a video hologram, but plays more of a role in Return of the Jedi. There's still a lot of great scenes where Yoda teaches Luke how to be stronger, light side of the Force to drag him up, such as floating stuff around and trying to raise his X-Wing out of the dirty lake. The soundtrack, still a great soundtrack for John Williams. This excellent cinematography by Pierre Susskind. The Wampa is this very terrifying monster, and of course, still get the best shocking ending, one of the most shocking ending I've probably ever seen ever, and that is, of course, the infamous reveal Vader gives Luke. No, I am your father. And still some funny moments. Most of the special effects still even hold up well. Even the special edition's actually decent for what it is. Of course, there's still iconic dialogue, and for a change, one of the first times ever, well, back then anyways, the heroes in this one lost. As well, Han Solo was left frozen in carbonite and given to Jabba the Hutt at the end. Luke lost his hand and was defeated by Darth Vader, forcing the rebels to flee. But all in all, then again, we all knew there was still going to be a third film coming out, so that had to be done. Now, I think the only bad qualities are just the ones from the special editions, but those can be forgotten about, really, because they're not that important. But all in all, this is my favorite Star Wars film, and I would rank it a 10 out of 10, maybe even an 11 out of 10, and I put it in first place. But after Empire, however, we did go, and we got the phenomenal, true conclusion to Star Wars. And my third favorite Star Wars film of all time. And that is for Star Wars Episode 6, Return of the Jedi. Man. Now, it didn't quite match New Hope or Empire Strikes Back, but it's still a phenomenal masterpiece and still a very good conclusion to the original trilogy. And in fact, this should have been where Star Wars truly ended. This is the true finale to Star Wars, not the pitiful Rise of Skywalker movie. Ugh. Let's not talk about that right now. Let's just get on with this one. And what is this movie even about? Well, now Luke Skywalker is still battling his father Darth Vader and the World Crime War Jabba the Hutt to save his comrades in the Rebel Alliance and triumph over the Galactic Empire. Solo, Han, and Leia reaffirm their love and team with Chewbacca, Lando, Ewoks, and the two droids, leading to disruption of the dark side and defeat the Emperor Palpatine once and for all. This movie rocked because it's such an ultimate conclusion to Star Wars, one of the last final stands for the rebels against the Galactic Empire of the planet of Endor, a huge army of Star Destroyers, TIE Fighters, Stormtroopers, even a Super Star Destroyer. We bring back Han Solo even, as Princess Leia freezes Han Solo at the Jabba's places, since we all remember he was frozen at the end of Empire Strikes Back. The final duel of Luke and Darth at Palpatine's place is a very satisfying final battle to the franchise of the Star Wars series. And they even battle in front of Palpatine too. And the final battle against the Empire is the Battle of Endor. It's still one of the most memorable, fantastic battles of the Star Wars universe and its timeline. An amazing choice in the series by having a battle in space and even on the Forest planet. The acting with the iconic roles with still some great acting, amazing directing from late director Richard Marquand, and special effects for a spaceship are still amazing and well improved even in 1983 standards. Excellent cinematography. The Ewoks are even really cool characters too. It even has having some of the most emotional scenes in Star Wars history. An amazing climax near the end of the movie, where Palpatine threatening to kill Luke. But Darth Vader turns back to Anakin Skywalker and kills the Emperor, throws him down into the chute, destroying him for good, and is even further destroyed when the Death Star that's about to be built is rebuilt, is now finally blown up and destroyed. The only bad qualities are, sure, the Ewoks can be a little forced at times, and the very infamous Jedi rock scene in the special edition is very cringeworthy, but all in all, it's still a phenomenal masterpiece, and I would still give it a 9.5 out of 10. The only, it's still a great movie, even if it's not as good as Empire or New Hope. It's still a phenomenal film, and it's still the true conclusion to Star Wars, in my opinion. But now, Star Wars did conclude here chronologically, but 16 years later, Lucas decided to come back and show how Anakin became Darth Vader in the first place, and decided to expand on the universe a little bit by giving it all a backstory. And of course, 16 years later in 1999, that would be the prequels. And of course, we all started off the whole prequel story about young Anakin turning to the dark side with Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Now, a lot of people seem to hate this movie, but me personally, I love the prequels too. I still think they expand on the story of Star Wars well. Well, and here's why. Now, I like it a little more than most people do, but it's just going to be my opinion, guys. But why I love it is because there's still epic battle scenes like Darth Maul's one-on-one fight with Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. Still can. John Williams still gives a phenomenal score. The cinematography is still really good. Some neat visuals. Darth Vader's origin story is actually a perfect way to spend on Star Wars. And very interesting characters like younger Obi-Wan Kenobi, Darth Maul. The only bad thing is Darth Maul doesn't really get much screen time in this film, and particularly Darth Sidious, who is technically Palpatine, but was the highlight of all three of the prequels. Darth Maul proving interesting enough to Darth Maul even returned to the Clone Wars animated series and Rebels, and of course gets an unnecessary cameo at the end of Solo. And of course now, some people are going to disagree with this, but I don't think Jar Jar Binks is that bad of a character. Sure, maybe he can be a little annoying sometimes, but he actually proved to have a lot of use in this film, because the Gungans would have never formed would have never formed an alliance with the Republic if it probably weren't for him. So yeah. Now, I mean, there's still some flaws, like some stiff acting here and there, some weak special effects, and some laughable dialogue, but it's Star Wars, guys, and yeah, I do agree the poop jokes in this film were very unneeded in this film. Yeah, what else? What else is there? Think of some mediocre costume designs too. The droid army feels ineffectual. That there's no sense they're even really a threat. They're kind of just They're kind of just goofs throughout most of the trilogy. But I don't know, guys. I still personally think it's a pretty good film, and I would, weirdly odd enough, give it an 8 out of 10. I would consider it around 6th favorite Star Wars film all time. But then, well, of course, we got, after Phantom Menace, we then got the second installment in the prequel trilogy, and that was for, well, Star Wars Attack of the Clones. Now, hold on, guys. I think I'm running out of breath here. Alright, sorry about that. Now, it was probably the weakest of the George Lucas films, but it's not, like, terrible. It's not the worst Star Wars movie ever made. I'm going to get to the worst Star Wars movie ever made in part 2. But I'll just get on with the good qualities. Now, the good qualities were, there's still epic action scenes, still a good soundtrack for John Williams, still several good performances, and Obi-Wan's subplot is actually much better than the subplot between Anakin and Padme. Well, it's still the usual good fun Star Wars film, especially the battle with Yoda at the end is also kind of a saving grace, and The bad qualities. It can feel a little long at times. And Hayden Christensen's performance as Anakin in this film is kind of mediocre, but then again, he's better in Revenge of the Sith, really. The end. Yeah. The romance between Anakin and Padme can feel a little cringeworthy at times, but then again, remember that all these times, Anakin was being brainwashed by the Emperor, so those actually kind of explain it better. Still some stiff acting, and most of the characters feel way too computer animated rather than real actors. So yeah. In all, it's just an okay film, and I would give it a 6.5 out of 10. It's not the best, but it's not terrible. But, however, we then finally got what is my favorite film of the prequel series and my fourth favorite Star Wars movie of all time, and that was for none other than Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. Now, when this one, it was 3 years since the Clone Wars began, because, well, they started at the end of Attack of the Clones. About Kenobi and Anakin rescue Palpatine from General Grievous, Meritorious, but of course Grievous escapes. And suspicions start to get raised when the Jedi Council concerning Palpatine with Anakin has now formed a bond. He's asked to spy on the Chancellor. Full of bitterness towards the Jedi Council, Anakin then finally embraces the dark side. Well, why do I love this film so much? It's got great callbacks and connections to the original Star Wars trilogy. A very great final battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Darth Sidious and General Grievous are very awesome villains. Actors give very good performances. Still amazing soundtrack for John Williams, like with most of the films. A kick-ass battle between Obi-Wan. I think Owen already mentioned that. Hayden Christensen's performance as Anakin Skywalker is actually really good in this film. Compared to his okay performance in Attack of the Clones, he's so much better here, especially after he becomes Darth Vader. And and plus there's a little less romance and a little less politics in this film, but well, no. And of course, when Anakin finally gets that suit, it's such an epic feeling. It's such a very epic feeling. Now that he finally ends up being Darth Vader at that point. Now, the bad qualities, well, still some laughable dialogue here and there, still some boring political scenes, but they're not too focused for once, so that's kind of good. Now, while the CGI is definitely better than in the previous two films, it's still kind of a little too much forced at times. There's some kind of lame death scenes, like Mace Windu's death is a little lame, and General Grievous' death is also very weak. But, I don't know, despite that, I would give it a 9 out of 10. It was even one of the darkest films I saw at the time, because it deals with the fall of a beloved hero, now turning to the bad side of things. Well, yeah, but this and Empire are the two darkest Star Wars movies. So, but now that officially concludes part 1 of the ranking, there will be part 2 soon, which will be the Disney films, and I'm only going to be talking about 4 of the Disney films because one of the Disney films I already talked about, and I thankfully don't have to talk about it. But all in all, I'll still be ranking the 4 others that come before this one. But anyway, that'll be it for part 2. This video's not over yet, guys. Stay tuned for